Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of Reinventing B2B. And today we are going to be getting into something that transcends everything we do, how we manage the massive amount of data we have to consume in B2B. So welcome to episode 3, the anatomy of analytics. It's hosted by Just Global, with a Global B2B Agency of the Year. My name is James O'Flaherty. I am the EVP of Growth at Just Global. And we are talking about the challenges of data in B2B marketing and what it presents, the common needs that we're seeing, how we think we need to address them, the role of ad operations. And this is something that we really want to talk about today. There's so much that happens that goes into having the right data sets to make the right decisions. So this is a really important session for us. We're also looking at how AI is influencing everything and what exciting things are around the corner. The other thing we want to explore for people like me who think we're marketers, but definitely know that we're not data analysts or specialists in that field. How do we know when we're looking at good data? And how do we know when we're looking at the right kind of data visualizations? So that's something we'll also be getting into. I am very excited to be joined by two of the people in Just Global who I admire the very most. Our EVP of Global Analytics, Emilie Lee, and our Director of Ad Operations, Kat Van Biene. Thank you very much for both being here. We always start with a fun question. Let me just put the inverted commas on FUN. There we go. Yep. So this is the fun question. Except for Reinventing B2B, this podcast, which is amazing, what would be your second favorite podcast in the world except for this one? Emilie.
I'm going to go with, it's a tie between the CMO podcast and How I Built This with Guy Raz.
Kat, how about you?
I'm going to have to go with We Can Do Hard Things with Glenn and Doyle. That kind of goes over all the hard things we do on a day-to-day basis, loving and losing, caring for children and parents, friendships, etc. It's a great podcast and a daily mantra I have: I can do hard things.
I absolutely love it, and I definitely want to listen to that one. Hopefully everybody else wants to listen to it about 35 minutes after they've listened to this. We are going to go straight into it because we've got a lot of good stuff to cover off today. So we always like to start with a fact or a data insight or a report that we've recently seen, just to kind of guide some of the key parts of the conversation. And the ones that we've got for the start of this conversation are around analytics. So 42% of data analysts and 40% of marketers cite manually wrangling data as their biggest challenge. It's almost as hard to read that as it is to say it. What does that look like, and how do you think that it's evolved over time, Emilie?
Well, first of all, I'm not surprised. There's so many different data platforms, data solutions popping up left and right. And so many different taxonomies that exist. It's really difficult to figure out how to wrangle them all and how to use them. In terms of aggregating the data and visualizing it, there's so many different solutions that have come about. There's some classic ones like Tableau and Datorama under Salesforce Marketing Cloud. For a more enterprise solution, there's Power BI and Looker, which are quite popular amongst at least our client base. And then if you want more sort of account-based marketing, there's solutions like Octane 11 as well, which have all excellent solutions, all important for different use cases. What is really important in terms of wrangling data is ensuring you have a clean taxonomy and that you have that proper QA in place. Genuinely having someone like Kat on the team, she is our superhero. She is saving the day constantly when it comes to QA, spotting taxonomy issues, troubleshooting issues. She's our star. So I'm very grateful for Kat.
Nice, thank you. Kat, what about you? What would your thoughts be on this?
Well, I think that's kind of why we chose the whole analogy of the human anatomy, because really everything's connected within our bodies and also within an agency. So I feel like I can go on and choose many different analogies, but when it comes to ad ops and analytics and how we work so closely with them, and how we work together, I think going back to the human anatomy, I think a common one is how a weak core can cause lower back pain. but a strong core is crucial for your overall health and functionality. And that's kind of how I feel about being on the analytics team and working so closely. Like, we are crucial to improving the health of as an agency, boost performance through our execution and visualizations. And for my team, I strive to provide support to the analytics team, to the other departments, to kind of take away those day-to-day pains, and really just help coordinate and take things off of the analytics plate.
I love anything that has an analogy. I'm all for that. Always makes it a bit easier for somebody like me to actually get it. What about you talk about how you work, but I suppose the thing that I have on the other side is how I understand whether what I'm looking at is right and whether it's good. And I think I've had that in kind of the recent past, trying to understand how we even go about evaluating an analytics platform. Emilie, what's the right approach here? What are the things that you should be looking for to understand what good looks like?
I think starting with what is it that you are wanting to get out of it? What's the objective of the evaluation? That will start to lead you down a path. And if you're thinking about a specific data set that you'd like to use to justify perhaps a channel or a tactic, understanding why do you want to use that tactic and channel in the first place? What is the KPI? What's the overall objective? If that data set or that platform seems like an incredible opportunity and it is everything and more, it's really important to beta test it and sort of figure out what could go wrong. What are the limitations? What's the cost of it? Were there any errors? Did it ultimately justify all of that effort to put that data set or to put that platform into place in order to get you the information that you needed and prove whether or not that objective was successful or not? If it didn't, and if it was a pain, then you really need to figure out a different data source or a different channel or platform. I would also say, even if you feel like it is the perfect data set or the perfect platform or the perfect channel, always making sure that you are keeping your eyes open to other opportunities as well, because even though that platform or channel or data set might have seemed really amazing in 2018, 2019, it's probably not as amazing anymore. There are likely other solutions that exist. So please always continue to evaluate what opportunities are out there, because especially in the world we live in right now, it's a really ever evolving industry.
How do you guys keep up? Because you talk about like 2018 like it's the ancient past. I'm like, I had grey hair then, I've got grey hair now. Like, how do you keep up with just all of the different trends and like start to understand? Because I'm assuming that there are different ways that you would even evaluate something from 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, the way that I personally keep up to speed on the different platforms and opportunities that are available are through podcasts. I might hear something interesting that is up and coming that I should look into. Often our partners who we work with are coming forward and telling us, hey, we have this new beta opportunity available. In B2B marketing, we say relationships are at the core of everything, and keeping a really close relationship with our partners allows us to take advantage and even know about those beta opportunities so that we can make sure that we're taking advantage of them first. We're always sort of in evaluation mode. We want to make sure we're doing the latest and greatest and driving business growth for clients, of course.
How about you, Kat?
Yeah, I definitely second what Emilie says. I really lean on our partners and our different vendors. I personally have Google Alerts set up to alert me if anything new, in particular, for example, like the cookieless future. But a lot of times I'll get those alerts and read the article, and it kind of, every article kind of summarizes the same thing that we're hearing. So what I like to do is actually contact, my partner, whether it be Ads Forever, Trade Desk, and kind of get their insight and learn more about it, and go from there and evaluate to see what's the best way to move forward to test.
I wanted to move on to another statistic because, it's analytics, so I need to throw numbers at you guys, don't I? So we had one stat that led the first kind of part of this. I think the other one that we also had was marketing analytics are responsible for influencing 53% of marketing decisions, and that's according to a survey by Gartner. So what do you think that says about the way marketing is working today and what marketers need to know about those decisions?
I think 53% makes a lot of sense. Marketing decisions are being driven via marketing analytics. We want data to be driving what we're doing moving forward. What I also hear in that stat, though, is that 47% of decisions are being made without data and analytics being a part of the decision, according to Gartner. So I think part of the reason why that 47% exists is because of the issue with wrangling data. That said, you were living in the time of AI, right? It's just exploding everywhere. All of these companies are actually really digging into what they can provide and determining if they have the appropriate infrastructure and talent in place to take advantage of AI. And that way they're able to drive more decisions faster, operationally, efficiently. There's so much opportunity. What I think is going to happen is if we were to do this podcast a year from now, and we were to look at that Gartner stat, which hopefully will be released again next year, I think that 53% is going to be more like 65 to 70%, maybe more, because of AI exploding and all the opportunity that's available from an analytics perspective, warehousing the data in one place and being able to prompt, AI to make all kinds of decisions really quickly and allowing us all to be more operationally efficient and innovative.
I love that we've got predictive analytics of the data that we're using to talk about analytics today. So thank you for that. Kat, is there anything that you'd want to add to what Emilie just said?
She pretty much summed it up perfectly, but people are torn about AI and what it means for our industry. I'm personally very excited, and I believe we really need to continue exploring the different developing technologies out there and continue testing them. And I think it's just a very exciting time for our industry. I know it can be scary for some, but, as Emilie mentioned, I'm curious to see in a year from now what it'll do for these stats that we're seeing.
And we've got a whole section to talk about AI, which I think is where we can get into the real detail of that. The second thing that I was going to kind of move us on to as well is I think we've been talking about how things work, and we obviously work in it every day, and you particularly kind of live and breathe it because of the way that our clients work and what they do. But I think one thing that I would love to get a clearer understanding of is what are the primary differences and what are the common challenges when you think about B2B versus B2C? What is it? Because I think you both come from backgrounds where you've worked across both. What do you see as the biggest differences and maybe the biggest challenges that you have with that change?
I love a good B2B and B2C comparison. So I love that this is coming up. As you mentioned, Kat and I both came from a prior agency where B2C existed. And I think we were both in B2C land a little bit more previously. So that said, so some of the common challenges in B2B versus B2C, my mind goes to the buying mindset, the buying cycle length, the marketing channels leveraged, and the tracking required. And all of that goes into the analysis of the output so that we're able to actually analyze. So I think starting with the mindset, B2B versus B2C. So B2C is much more emotionally driven. It's going to be a faster buying cycle. B2B, as I mentioned a little bit ago, is about relationships in order to nurture that lead through and make it happen. Let's bring in a couple of examples. B2C, let's say I want to purchase AirTags, Apple AirTags. I'm staring at one right now. So that's a fast buying cycle, right? I'm going to hop online. I'm going to search for the cheapest AirTag. Hopefully it's not a terrible AirTag, but likely the cheapest AirTag. Go to the website and purchase. That was a really fast buying cycle. It's pretty emotionally driven because I want it quickly, and it's very easily trackable, right? Maybe I also saw an ad yesterday, a programmatic ad. So the path to conversion there was seeing the ad, searching for the AirTag, and then purchasing the AirTag. Your brand to revenue tracking process is pretty fast and easy to measure there. With B2B, we need to advertise to an entire buying committee of decision makers, right? And those who would move forward with a particular software or tech, it's going to take some time, as we all know, likely 6 to 9 months, if not more. And because that buying cycle requires hitting that audience or committee so many times, and the type of channels that we leverage, including content syndication, they're a little bit more difficult to track. It's going to be far more difficult to prove or justify some of the upper funnel tactics or channels that are driving that conversion once it actually comes through. And it's difficult to track that lead flow process at times, again, depending on the channel. So ultimately, the solution there is really leaning in and understanding what each platform can provide to then prescribe the appropriate measurement solution. So there's complexities. B2C is just easier from a tracking and analytics perspective. B2B is just more difficult because of the channels, the mindset, the process. You might lose some tracking in that 6 to 12 month window. If I think about the easiest comparison with B2B and B2C, it's likely auto. If normally people are not going to emotionally purchase a car, let's hope not. I don't think many people I know would do that. And it takes time. It takes me months to figure out what kind of car I want. And it's difficult to track once you get to the actual car lot and purchase that car. It's difficult to track that. So if I were to, come up with a similar sort of B2B versus B2C vertical, it would probably be auto and just the complexity between the two.
So it kind of sounds like, okay, B2C has massive data sets, but short buying cycles. B2B, we have massive data sets and long buying cycles. So we have even bigger continual data sets. So does that make B2B, and I'm not going to be like, oh, B2B is better than B2C, because that's not the point, but does it make it more rewarding for you over a course of time to have to stitch all of that data together to come up with the right story, I guess, from it?
Yes. The level of knowledge that we need to have on the analytics side in every platform and the different reporting capabilities that are possible, we're genuinely optimizing there. It is harder on the B2B side. So yeah, I definitely think it's more rewarding within B2B.
Okay, so it's harder. So what are the common things? What are the things that make it hard? What are the things that tend to, I'm not going to say go wrong, but the things that you have to get right?
Definitely tracking.
I was going to say, from an adult's perspective, definitely tracking. And to be honest, and Emilie knows this, I kind of had, we were both in the B2C, B2B, more B2C. And I was like, man, I'm kind of scared to move away from B2C. It's pretty straightforward in terms of tracking. But as you said, James, I found over the past 2 years I've been here, it's rewarding when we can actually figure out, come up with these complicated measurement frameworks and strategies, but translating that into a tracking plan and executing it. It's not a simple, tagging the landing page, the cart page, and the thank you page. It's really finding the user engagement, and not just basing off CTR. It's about finding out, does a user spend X amount of time on a landing page? Does the user scroll down to the bottom? Is the user interacting with the video, filling in the form? There's just so many opportunities. So yes, it becomes a little bit more complex in terms of tracking. And then also trafficking too. Obviously the ad ops handles, it's a lot more placements because we're really trying to get that granularity. But I love a challenge. I love the details. and seeing it come to fruition with these beautiful visualizations that the analytics team comes up with is just like amazing.
So leading on from that then, I think one of the things that we get a lot of questions, certainly in the market from our clients about, and there's been a lot in the news lately as well with regards to Google and what a cookieless future means. Kat, can you just talk to us about it from your perspective and what you see as the kind of the big issues of the day?
Yeah, I think, this is something that Google announced back in 2020. So it has been creating a frenzy since 2020. And what I've noticed, it kind of comes in waves. And I find myself typing up new POVs for the past 4 years. But I think, as a quick summary of what Google's trying to do is to phase out third-party cookies, which I think most of us know. Some people might not know is that first-party cookies are staying. They're not going away. So it's not necessarily a cookieless future. I think that's a common misconception. Cookies are staying. It's just third-party cookies and our capabilities to track a user's activity across different websites. But we can still see what they're doing on our actual sites, on our client site. So, and I think with each announcement that Google makes, the latest one was their 1% tracking protection test they rolled out across their Chrome users. And I think that's what created this next wave, this current wave of frenzy, where our clients like, are we doing enough? Are we prepared? And, I think it can be scary, especially for our clients, and I think it's just the human tendency to fear the unknown, because truly no one quite knows what's going to happen. And as of right now, it really relies on the UK's Competition and Markets Authority, the CMA. They're kind of one of the main reasons why it's been postponed for so long, because they're evaluating the impact it's going to have on revenue in the industry. They're evaluating the impact on privacy, and just evaluating the competition too. So there's definitely, with this 1% tracking protection test, they have been really evaluating the I guess initial results, and it's already facing some challenges where they're actually at a standstill, where Google they're not allowed to move forward with the phase out until they address some of these issues. Google's made it very clear that the privacy sandbox isn't going to replace third-party cookies, but it needs to be able to fill in some of those gaps that these third-party cookies going away will create. So currently, that's the current status now. Everything's a bit of standstill for the next 60 to 120 days, and the CMA is asking, and IAS, they're all asking for everyone in the industry's feedback during the standstill, so that way we can decide as an industry how to move forward. So, but I think it just comes back to the fear of the unknown. Do people want to invest ahead of time on resources that can cost a lot of money to develop these technologies that can better prepare us, or do we just kind of sit and wait and trust that these bigger players in the game are going to provide these turnkey solutions for us? It's kind of a crazy time right now, but I'm still, if it's not, I'm not worried. I'm not.
I think one of the questions you asked earlier, James, was how do we know we're using the right data, and how are we making sure that we're staying on top of the different data sources that we use, the different platforms that we use? And this is a really great example of where brands and their agencies need to be working together really closely to identify different tracking and measurement opportunities with the potential cookieless world coming through. So, for example, you've got the Trade Desk UIUD 2.0 that they have. LinkedIn has a conversions API. Meta has a conversions API as well. So what we can be doing now is testing and understanding what's happening when it comes to performance and whether or not these solutions are going to work or not. That fear of the unknown will start to dissipate a little bit once they start to, meaning brands and agencies, or whenever they're executing their campaigns, as they're testing this out, They're going to know what will actually happen. It's a small scale right now, but we have to start somewhere. We'll give them a flavor of what could happen and the different data sets we could work with once those cookies potentially go away.
Okay. And talking of flavor, you have an analogy for this that I think is worth kind of bringing up here.
Oh, for me, yes. I always have a good analogy, but I kind of, and again, it's such a complex topic that I just like to find, these analogies to help better break it down and make people understand, and for me, and I think for, most people out there, like, when you're preparing for your first child, there is a fear of the unknown. Even for your first pet, there's just or embarking on a new adventure, there's a fear of the unknown that, you can read the books, you can read the articles out there, you can do all of that. And then it happens and you're like, whoa. And I honestly think, just like in parenting, you kind of rely on a village of people. You rely on your partner, you rely on your friends that have kids, you rely on a village. And it's the same thing here. You need to rely on your village of partners and professionals to kind of get you through this scary, quote unquote, scary time. And so just really leaning on your partners like the Trade Desk and AdSwerve and your Facebook reps and your LinkedIn reps to see, what we can be doing to prepare for this. And I wanted to include, because it's a quote from Julius at Analytics Mania. I subscribe to his newsletter. He really breaks things down in an easy to read way. But I always look back at this quote and I start to feel a little like panic when it comes to cookieless future. And he says, what should you do about the phase out of third-party cookies? Not much. That is Google's, Facebook's, and other vendors' headache now. They will probably rely more and more on AI and data modeling, hash personal information of your visitors. Time will show what will happen. And when more is known, trust me, there will be a buzz in the industry and you will be informed. Which I think just always kind of brings it, and just reassures me that it's going to be okay. We have some great partners, great vendors, and we're in constant communication with them.
That's nice. What do you think? Because this has been topic of discussion for 4 or 5 years. It's been bouncing around for such a long time. Beyond the kind of what do we do next? Has there been an impact? Because there's been a lot of preparation for something that hasn't happened a lot of times. Are there common things that have kind of knolled up a little bit because of this in the last few years? Or is this just something that everyone is kind of getting on with until it's an actual thing?
Well, I do think that, as Emilie had mentioned, they have, each platform kind of has their own solutions in place. Whether it's the conversions API set up with Google Ads, there's an enhanced conversions that utilizes the first party data that we're collecting. So we're not by any means trying to, right now, we're still using third party data as much as possible, but we're kind of, we're just supplementing it with this first party data and all the other alternative solutions that they're kind of recommending that us marketers really explore, such as AI technology and contextual targeting. There's just many developing technologies these days that and so many endless opportunities to explore. So it's actually pretty exciting.
Well, look, you mentioned AI twice now, so I think it's only fair we get to all of the stuff that I know you want to talk about from an AI perspective. So look, we have the rise of AI, if it is even a rise. It's a prevalence of AI conversation in the market around marketing analytics. How quick has it been? Can we talk about the ways the industry and even how we're looking to utilize AI with our own analytics as well?
So with AI and analytics in particular, there's a ton of opportunity, right? I think what first comes to mind and the lowest hanging fruit when it comes to AI is efficiency, understanding what can be done faster with leveraging AI. So uploading a very basic data set with, of course, without any PII, we have to make sure, of course, that everyone is compliant, and asking it what sorts of questions would a CMO or a marketer, depending on who the audience is who would be speaking with, what sort of questions would they ask? And then actually asking the AI, prompting it with those questions to see what sort of output is provided is a really great way to spark curiosity, some inspiration, some innovation, and see what sort of output comes out. I think, too, something really easy to do is upload a brain dump of insights, either from your specialists, your channel owners, your own analysis, and then asking it to reword some things, or what additional questions would a CMO have on top of these insights that were pulled. How can we then answer those? What are some hypotheses that come from these initial outcomes that we've uncovered? Day to day, a lot of our data visualization is actually powered by AI with harmonization and just overall data integration that's happening via the different APIs that are coming into the solution that we leverage, which is powered by Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So that happens day to day. I think as far as an industry too, there's some initial marketing analytics AI solutions that are coming about, which are really, really exciting, where all of the data might be brought into an ETL service and then pushed to a data warehouse.
Can I ask you, just because I'm an idiot, what is ETL? I'm sorry.
ETL is a solution that extracts, transforms, and loads your data.
I think I might have just exploded my analytics kind of creds there, but I just wanted to make sure I knew.
It's a good point. This is the wrangling of data that marketers have a difficult time with. You have to bring all of your data into one spot and harmonize it, make sure it's all normalized and speaking to each other in order to then be able to analyze it. So that is the ETL service that's happening, the harmonization of the data. So that ETL needs to happen. And then what happens next is you can bring that data into a data warehouse, BigQuery, Azure, and then AI now exists that can prompt the data in these data warehouses. And it's not just limited to performance data anymore. It's also audience data. There's all sorts of different data sets that can be connected into these data warehouses that we can then prompt. And then as far as the industry goes, there are some initial marketing analytics AI solutions that are starting to pop up, which is really, really exciting because it's not just about marketing analytics in terms of performance. It's about leveraging marketing analytics performance, as well as layering in audience insights, intent data, being able to do some media mix modeling simply by querying your AI, which then leads to the data warehouse, which is what's aggregating all of the different data sources together. So we're starting to get into this world where rather than having these multiple data sets from performance and a planning standpoint come together and take hours, if not a week to build, it is queried and given to you within seconds, which is incredible. So tons of opportunity there. We're in a really, really exciting time.
Kind of blowing my mind a little bit. Like, but I suppose the thing for me, I always think back. Well, what is the balance? Like, how much of it can be automated? How much of it needs human intervention, or at least human oversight? Like, how does that work?
We definitely still need the humans. Absolutely. We still need the people prompting the AI. We need to have someone submitting that request for the information. I was listening to a podcast the other day that was mentioning how editing the initial AI output is still quite a challenge, because while the edits, while you might be suggesting a very simple edit, that output is going to be given to you all over again. And when that happens, you might get a completely different output than you had before. And so that's not very helpful. The other thing is there's inherent bias that's happening with the output of these prompts. You have to make sure that someone is
You said at a certain point in that last point, you said we still need the humans. So I just want to thank you for that. We're gonna take that and we're gonna feel like that's a win against Emilie Lee. So we're still required is the summary of what of that point.
Yes, we're all still going to have jobs. Fret not.
Kat, sorry I was interrupting you and you were just about to talk there.
No. I just, I think, for analytics and ad ops, like, AI is something like, at least for us, that's embedded in our day to day already. And what I think we'll find is as this year goes on, as weeks go on, it's gonna be embedded in all of our day to days, and that's just the reality. And it's nothing to be scared about. I think it's important to understand it, to test it out, and to understand, the benefits of how we can use it to make our lives easier. Honestly, to become more efficient. And I think it's pretty funny. There is an AI that provides an AI prompt. So it generates what you will prompt your AI to do. And I use it all the time because sometimes that's a hard thing to do. Again, that's the human behind you. You still have to prompt it in a proper way to give you a desired output. And even if it's the initial output isn't great, you kind of continue testing it. You give it a different prompt to perfect it. But that being said, it's still very glitchy. There's definitely some glitches in the system. I also have noticed through many testings of different platforms, AI platforms, that sometimes they don't have access to the latest data. Like I think for ChatGPT, I think it's only up to 2020, the end of 2023. So, I can't really necessarily rely on it to know what's going on in 2024, for example, with cookieless tracking, like what's the latest and greatest. So it's still, there still is a need for the human touch behind this. And especially when it comes to QA, that's something that I've exploring to see how I can incorporate AI and automation in the QA process. But for right now, it's still a very manual process from our side to make sure that we're executing campaigns flawlessly.
Right. Well, I want to, because there was something you mentioned there around prompts and AI, and we started talking about creative, and our creative team has done a whole load of work around like the right prompts to use all of the different tools that they've got available to them. And I know that there's innovation that's actually moving that forward as well from a dynamic creative perspective. Can you talk a little bit about what that actually means and where it's going?
Yeah. Really, 2023 was the year marketers started experimenting with what's called generative AI for ad creative. Essentially, for those familiar with Dolly, it's like the text to image where you prompt the tool to generate an image based on your description. And it's pretty fascinating. They just came out with a new one called Sora, where it's actually it's the text to video, which is just absolutely fascinating, slightly scary, but in a good way. But I think 2024 is really when marketers are really going to really dive in to these experiments. And I did see a stat out there from Ad Exchanger, where in the next 6 to 12 months, about 88% of marketing leaders will either have Gen AI implemented or have piloted or even just have an active plan in place to test these use cases. So it's pretty remarkable, 88% in the next 6 to 12 months. So yeah, I'm curious to see personally how it's going to impact dynamic creatives and DCO. Something that have been heavily involved with in the past, that was a lot of the process was very manual, pulling in the different contents and images and feeds. I have PTSD from the setup of it. So I'm personally very excited to see work closely with our creative team to see how we can incorporate these AI tools. In the little bit of the research I've done, it seems like in 2023, there was obviously challenges because as we mentioned a little bit ago, AI, it's not perfect. There's a lot of glitches there. So you can't just rely on it to display these ads in real time. It's not quite there yet. Also, the integration. There's not really any. The integration is very. It's costly, and so I think within this year, that's where we're going to see a lot of these different companies pop up to provide these kind of turnkey solutions to provide the integration between the creative platforms and these AI technologies. So I'm very excited to see what's ahead, and excited for our creative team too, to see what they can explore and test and especially with the personalization and the impact third-party cookies has on it. It's all tied together. It's all the human anatomy. It's all connected. Without the third-party cookies, which they use that a lot to power these dynamic creatives, because it's based on person's location, it's based on the weather, it's based on the time. So how is AI going to fill in those gaps when those third-party cookies go away? And how are we going to be able to repersonalize these ads to our users and to really, just drive success to our clients with what's ahead? And it's really all exciting.
One of the areas that I'm particularly interested in on the DCO side, or the performance creative side, is the potential savings we could get from a cost perspective. So back years ago, whenever Kat and I worked together with DCO, it was pretty expensive. The CPM was more expensive. Therefore, the cost per conversion or cost per lead was more expensive as well. That said, with AI, we likely are on a path of ideally a less expensive CPM. We would have to go through this process of saying, well, if we were able to get the conversion rate up, 10 percentage points, that certainly justifies the higher cost of the CPM. But it wasn't an easy discussion every time, because if you were to compare a conversion rate, even if it was higher, to a programmatic display conversion rate and the CPM there, it's just very different. So very much looking forward to seeing what the CPM is going to look like and the cost associated with this.
Well, that's a positive way to end. All of the innovation and all the performance that's going to come from it. I want to say thank you very much to both of you. Really appreciate you giving us the time and also going into the detail of it. There's a couple of things that I was going to kind of signpost as well. So in a few days' time, we're going to be creating some content, and that's going to be available to download on the site with one of our partners, Octane 11, which talks to some of this. The other thing that I wanted to flag as well, you both contributed into a really good piece of content, a blog on our site around the cookieless future, and we obviously spoke about that today. So that link as well will make available after this. But thank you very much, both of you, for everything and all the input on this. And we will be back next month with a new episode. So thank you from everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, James.